Yeah, man, it was terrible. I knew I was madly in love with my wife. The minute I saw her, it was kind of love at first sight. But getting to the altar was so tough.
Hi, everyone. Behind the smiles and the spotlight, Hollywood hides secrets that can shock even the biggest fans. Legends who seemed larger than life often carried battles we never saw, betrayal, heartbreak, and fears they kept locked away. Don Rickles, the king of insult comedy, made the world laugh while quietly fighting his own pain. And Jeff Bridges, the beloved star of The Big Lebowski, stunned fans at 75 with a confession no one expected. He never truly wanted to be an actor at all. Today, we uncover the untold struggles and hidden truths behind two of Hollywood's most unforgettable icons. Don Rickles was born in Queens, New York in 1926, the son of Jewish immigrants. His childhood was steeped in Yiddish culture, sharp wit, and a sense of humor that would later define him. Like so many of his generation, his life was interrupted by World War II. At just 18, he enlisted in the United States Navy and served aboard the USS Serene. He didn't see combat, but those years of discipline and camaraderie shaped him and gave him time to dream about life after the war. His dream was never comedy. It was acting. Don Rickles studied at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, determined to land serious film roles. But rejection followed him everywhere. Out of frustration, he turned to stand-up comedy, not to chase laughs, but simply to stay on stage. At first, his act was ordinary. Then one night, a heckler interrupted. Rickles fired back with a razor-sharp insult, and instead of anger, the audience erupted in laughter. In that instant, he discovered his true gift. People didn't want rehearsed jokes. They wanted his fearless wit. Fate intervened again in Miami Beach. During a show, Frank Sinatra entered the audience. Most comedians would have played it safe, but Rickles didn't hesitate. He quipped, "Make yourself at home, Frank. Hit somebody." The crowd roared. Sinatra loved it. Overnight, Rickles went from struggling comic to rising star. Sinatra spread the word, and soon Rickles was headlining Las Vegas. Audiences came to be roasted by the man known as the Merchant of Venom, yet ironically, he also earned the nickname Mr. Warmth. That was his magic. He could tear you apart and still make you feel part of the fun. Television soon came calling, and Rickles became a fixture on late-night shows and the Dean Martin celebrity roasts, where no one was safe from his biting humor. Viewers loved it, because only Rickles could tear someone apart and still make them laugh along with the audience. He wasn't just a comedian, though. He proved he could act, starring in the sitcom CPO Sharky and appearing in films like Run Silent, Run Deep, alongside legends Clark Gable and Burt Lancaster. In 2007, decades into his career, he earned an Emmy Award for Mr. Warmth, the Don Rickles Project, a documentary that celebrated his one-of-a-kind legacy. But behind the laughs, there was another story. In 1965, Don married Barbara Sklar, the woman he often credited with saving his life from the chaos of show business. Together, they raised two children, Mindy and Larry. Mindy would later describe her father as deeply loving but emotionally guarded, a man who gave the world laughter but struggled to show vulnerability at home. Larry followed his own path into entertainment, becoming a producer and writer. In 2007, he too won an Emmy Award for his work on Mr. Warmth, a moment Don called one of the proudest of his life. But just 4 years later, tragedy struck when Larry died of pneumonia at only 41. For a man whose career was built on laughter, the loss was devastating, a grief he carried quietly behind his trademark smile. There were other complications, too. Though Frank Sinatra had been the one to launch his career, whispers suggested Rickles harbored resentment toward him later in life. Some even claimed he believed Sinatra had exploited Marilyn Monroe, rumors Rickles never publicly confirmed, but ones that cast a shadow over their bond. Still, Don pressed forward, living out his philosophy that resilience was the only way to survive in comedy. Then came Johnny Carson. In 1965, Rickles stepped onto the stage of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, and television history was born. Carson was smooth, controlled, and unflappable. Rickles was chaos, loud, brash, and fearless. Together, they created late-night magic. When Johnny Carson retired in 1992, Don Rickles believed he had a real chance at inheriting The Tonight Show. After all, who else had such a deep history with Carson? He had been a fixture on the show for decades, appearing more than 100 times, roasting the king of late night in a way no one else dared. To Rickles, it seemed like a natural progression, but destiny had other plans. NBC chose Jay Leno, a younger comedian with a safer middle America appeal. For executives, it was business. For Rickles, it was betrayal. He felt Carson had misled him, given him hope, only to let it disappear. Behind closed doors, he reportedly called Carson a liar. The bitterness simmered for years. On stage, Rickles kept the jokes alive, still mocking Carson with that old rhythm audiences adored. But in private, he carried anger and disappointment, convinced their friendship had been more performance than reality. When Carson passed away in 2005, the world mourned. Rickles joined the tributes, calling Carson the best straight man a comedian could hope for, and describing him as a complicated genius. His words were respectful, but layered with honesty. It was admiration mixed with unresolved pain. For Rickles, Carson's death closed not only a chapter in television history, but also one of the most complicated friendships of his life. It was truly the end of an era. If Rickles built his legacy on confidence and quick wit, Jeff Bridges' story began in doubt. Jeffrey Leon Bridges was born on December 4, 1949, into a Hollywood family. His father, Lloyd Bridges, was already a star, while his mother, Dorothy, kept the family grounded. Jeff appeared on screen before he could even walk. His first role came at 6 months old, playing a baby in The Company She Keeps. But Lloyd never glamorized the profession. He once sat Jeff and his brother Bo down and showed them statistics proving most actors made less than $5,000 a year. He urged them to focus on school, warning that acting was not a stable path. For Jeff, those words planted seeds of doubt. Maybe fame wasn't freedom. It was a trap. By his teenage years, Jeff longed for independence. He painted, surfed, and played in a garage rock band called The Nozzles. On his bedroom door, he defiantly scrawled, "Not an actor." He drifted into drugs, marijuana before school, LSD in Topanga Canyon. In 1967, a police stop nearly derailed him until his parents intervened. What ultimately saved Jeff Bridges wasn't punishment, but perspective. His father, Lloyd Bridges, reframed acting for him. With acting, Lloyd explained, you can live every dream, fly planes, play music, paint, without being trapped in one life. Suddenly, acting didn't feel like a prison. It felt like freedom. Jeff began taking roles, sometimes just to buy a guitar. Success came quickly. Oscar nominations for The Last Picture Show and Thunderbolt and Lightfoot in the 1970s. Yet even then, he considered quitting. He bought a beach house in Malibu, painted ocean scenes, and thought about leaving Hollywood behind. His family convinced him otherwise, reminding him that acting wasn't just work. It was a way to express all his passions. Still, doubt lingered. To balance the chaos, Jeff turned to music, painting, and photography. He trained in jazz piano for the fabulous Baker Boys and later released sleeping tapes, donating profits to fight child hunger. In 1983, he founded the End Hunger Network, dedicating decades to the cause. But Hollywood always drew him back. In 2009, he starred in Crazy Heart, insisting on singing his own songs. The performance won him an Academy Award, but when he held the statue, it wasn't triumph he felt. It was relief. Then in 2020, tragedy struck. Jeff was diagnosed with lymphoma. The tumor was the size of a football. Chemo drained his strength, and then COVID nearly killed him. He spent 5 weeks in ICU, losing 35 pounds and much of his hair. Recovery brought clarity. Letters from his late mother revealed even his parents' marriage had faltered, lessons that deepened his bond with Susan Geston. Medical bills topping $3 million forced him back to work. On The Old Man, he filmed while still on oxygen. What audiences saw wasn't acting, it was survival. Then, in April 2024, at Alice Tully Hall receiving the Chaplin Award, Jeff Bridges stunned the world. "I never actually wanted to become an actor," he confessed. At 75, Jeff had finally spoken his truth. So, as we look back at the lives of Don Rickles and Jeff Bridges, we're reminded that even the brightest stars walk through shadows we never see. Their laughter, their art, and their resilience prove that legends are not defined by perfection, but by the battles they overcome. If you found their stories as powerful as we did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood journeys. Until next time, stay inspired. Thanks for watching.